I want to start out just asking you, what are your biggest bills that you're really pushing for this year?
Well, a good and a bad thing about being in the Senate is I have unlimited bill slots. So I've had a lot of folks come to me with a lot of need. I have some stuff that I've refiled from last year in the House that didn't pass, but also, have received a lot of stuff and still trying to kind of figure out some of them that are in drafting. But we might get close to probably filing almost about 20 bills. And
Wow.
I think we probably have about 15 or more appropriation requests. We're also trying to take on some of Senator Thompson's load if possible and kind of divvy up some of her priority bills and also some of her appropriations to make sure that her district doesn't suffer this session as well. But some of the biggest priorities, I would say, well, first, if I'm going to say what constituents think is the most important to them, we just did a survey, and transportation and traffic is a big concern for Central Florida and throughout the district. Many of our constituents would love to spend more time with their families or spend their more time doing anything besides being on the road. So I'm definitely excited to be on the transportation committee so I can have a voice for our region with that. And also just to make sure that everything that is on our work program for FDOT for the next 5 years stays on the plan. We have a lot of great projects coming to Central Florida, but when money shift or things happen, sometimes things fall off. So a big priority is just to make sure that, we keep communication with our FDOT secretary to make sure those things stay on track. But legislation that I filed talking about roads is we had a bill that got through its first committee stop yesterday, and it's to designate a portion of I Drive and rename it after Harris Rosen to Harris Rosen Way. And myself and Representative Rita Harris are sponsoring that. It was great to talk about Mr. Rosen yesterday and all that he has done for our community, and what a great man he was and what a great impact. So I think that that's a wonderful bill that we're going to be able to keep his legacy to continue, so our locals see his name, but also people visiting see Mr. Harris Rosen and maybe do some research on him and find out what a good man he is and what he's done for our community. Another one of my bills is in regards to the Bright Futures program. So, and I had ran it through in the House last year and it passed two committees, but didn't move in the Senate. So now that I'm in the Senate, trying to move it. And it was a bill that came to us from students in a bill contest we did last year. The students felt that the Bright Futures program is not promoted enough in schools to them. They talked about, like, when they hear stories from other people about how they have used it, that it helps them out. And so they suggested a mentorship program. And so we are running that legislation again. It would also provide some accountability or some requirements for the school district to make sure that they do put a program. Because I found out certain things, like, let's say a student goes on a church mission for a couple of years. They could still apply for Bright Futures when they come back. There's opportunities where they're able to defer that. So we just want to make sure students know everything that's available to them. We want to make sure that we promote that there are a lot of great opportunities in Central Florida, especially where students can get a wonderful career or a technical pathway and, get a high paying job. So always looking for legislation that can help promote that. We also, on the education track are looking to expand the educational dollars for duty program. And that allows the National Guard members to receive tuition reimbursement up to 100%. And we want to expand it so spouses could take advantage of that as well. Of course, with everything, there's funding issues. So I have to have further conversations about that. But, when our National Guard is out there, dealing with natural disasters or they're employed, we want to make sure also that their spouses have opportunities for education and that, that they're being rewarded for their family sacrifices for our community. And then probably another one that's a really big one for me too, staying in the education track, is myself and Rep. Escamani have an elopement program for the school system for our disabled children that are on the spectrum. Many of them wander out of the classroom, or, unfortunately, they're also attracted a lot of times to bodies of water and the woods. So just working with our schools to make sure that they have what's called a SAFE program, so people know how to respond or what they need to do, and they have a program in place so we can prevent this from happening, or if it was to happen, that they're able to act right away. So we, don't see these horrible situations with students wandering off and drowning or getting lost in an abandoned property or woods. And those are probably my top ones that have been filed right now. When you file stuff, it takes a little bit to get moving in committees and multiple committee stops. I will say committees have been kind of slow hearing legislation with special sessions and snow days and all the things that have happened. So even though we're starting session another 2 weeks, I'm pretty hopeful for a lot of these bills that we can at least get some movement. But I probably will know a little bit more in a couple of weeks once things get moving and we meet with the chairs of the committees and kind of find out, what leadership supports or what they want to help promote with me.
You talked about being on the transportation committee, and
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't see any appropriations requests yet, but I know that I'm sure they're coming down the pike. What are some of those appropriations requests that you're looking at?
Yeah, so City of Kissimmee and Osceola County have put in appropriation request for different areas, but they're also work program stuff that is already, in the work program. So we try to make sure that we also don't mess with the work program that I told you about right now by putting in an appropriation request that might throw something out of there.
Mhm.
So we're working with them on two projects that they think that is important, and you probably will see those appropriations filed soon enough. Senate doesn't have a deadline on them. The House had a deadline last week, so we're getting those inputted right now. But we are working on, I think, two road projects. We're working on some appropriations to clean or address some of the hydrilla issues in Lake Toho, which has caused flooding. We're looking at affordable housing requests too, and veterans housing. So kind of a lot of those things that you hear in Central Florida are the big issues besides the transportation that I mentioned earlier is, affordable housing is a big deal for folks, and, having those wraparound services to go with it. And then also with the last couple of years with historic rains, we've seen flooding in areas that we hadn't seen before. And so looking at ways that we can address those and hopefully survive the governor's veto pen this year, because he has been really strong on vetoing a lot of water projects the last couple of years for Central Florida. So hoping that is not the trend for this year. But also I do serve on the Appropriations Committee for Ag and Natural Resources. So I will at least get to see those projects through at least the legislature portion. So I'm hopeful that, we can get those through at least the first step. And like I said, just hope that the governor isn't so I don't even know what the word is, but it's been a lot the last couple of years with water projects and where we have seen them across the strait stripped, and I think that's a bipartisan issue. So
Yeah.
hoping we have a better focus as a legislative body this year on making sure that doesn't happen.
With the veto committees, the ones that are looking over the vetoes, are
Yeah,
they looking at any of those flooding projects that were vetoed?
yeah. So unfortunately, I don't get to sit in on those because it's just the House that is looking at those. So they're going item by item. So unfortunately, I don't necessarily have a voice through that process, but I know that they're still working through it, and there's a couple items that folks are looking at, and also arts funding. And there's besides, unfortunately, the water projects, there was a lot of Central Florida projects that were vetoed this last year. I think I'm going by Anna Escamani's social media post from yesterday, but I know that she had mentioned some Central Florida projects are making it to the next leg, but I think they haven't finalized what they're going to be submitting. And honestly, Christy, this is kind of like different times because we've never done this before
I
with
know.
looking at these veto projects. So it is a new day, so to speak. I think it's a great idea, and I think that'd be something interesting for us to do future years is take that opportunity afterwards to go back and really maybe hash out which one of those we shouldn't have let go, or that we need to revisit. So I think it's a wonderful practice that I hope that we do continue. But if I'm being honest, I don't know enough about the process since I'm not involved, and since it's kind of all new uncharted territory these days with what's going on in Tallahassee. But it's great to see the three legislative branches back at work again.
Yeah, I that was shocking going through those some of the changes that the House in particular made this year, rules that they changed, and things they added, things they took away. And of course, the last month or so has been very interesting and very much a sea change in the legislature. And do you almost wish you were still in the House for
Um,
all?
No, I'm loving it over here because, even though we're not doing those veto items, it was, great. The Senate President Ben Albritton has been very approachable, has been very, very kind to me and very open with things. And so I was very proud of him to take a strong stance as well, and to see, the legislature stand together. My last 4 years, we've kind of had these fights going back and forth with the House and the Senate, and that's the only thing that I've known. But also the governor getting whatever he wants all of the time. So it's been very refreshing, and I think it's definitely, at least the minority party, giving us a lot more hope, I guess, and a lot more appreciation for the process, and folks watching from the outside too, seeing stuff that's never happened before happen. I think is definitely interesting, and a lot of Floridians say that they want things to be, shaked up a little, or shooken up a little bit. So, I think that it's a good thing for our constituents.